Hello and welcome to my presentation on the impacts of decision support systems on manufacturing environments. Before we get into the topic of decision support in manufacturing, let's look back on how manufacturing has historically used data. Manufacturing planning and process control were largely manually prepared as various forms of planning documents until the late 1960s, when MRP, Material Requirements Planning System, was introduced. It was fairly limited in its scope. It was largely based off of the IBM's COPIX, which was Communication Oriented Production Information and Control System, but focused primarily on material plans, sort of like this bill of material type of thing that you have, what goes into the producing an actual manufactured piece. This was so limited that it actually had caused failure in several instances, which we're not going to look at very specifically or anything, but the main point of that is that manufacturing needed something very much more robust, much more complex in order to handle all of the complexities of the manufacturing environment. So we had MRP2 was introduced, manufacturing resource planning. And that may sound familiar to some of you, as enterprise resource planning is very similar. And one of the more interesting aspects of MRP2 is that a significant amount of research emerged during the early 1980s to about 1990 or so on how to add in and implement various expert systems to make these manufacturing resource planning needs more easily fulfilled. And expert systems require this knowledge base, and they try to emulate what experts would do in any given situation. And since this was previously a very manual process, these experts would be the people that would have been involved in planning the production previously. And roughly in the same time period, you do start to see DSS come into wider use, mostly focusing around marketing research and translating that marketing research into actual production plans and things. Then we get the idea from Chang and Lin. They basically introduced this idea that you can take in something like a decision support system, which was a very ad hoc sort of environment for ill-formed problems and marketing and things like that at the time. And you can add in the expert systems and give it more support for the manufacturing environment. And that seems to have become the normal thing that people did later. So then, so now we are in this state where we're going from, as they've gone from traditional manufacturing to just in time, now we're going to that sort of environment to smart factories. As decision support has had to adapt within the manufacturing environment from traditional process based manufacturing to just in time and lean and these new manufacturing paradigms, essentially. There's been this continuous amount of change, and we're looking now at a future where the processes become more automated, more adaptable, smarter, and more networked. And there are some crucial considerations here. One is, are the visualizations that we typically use for decision support enough? There's been a lot of research into how to look at this, and the manufacturing processes in a smart factory need to be looked at in a more, I guess, realistic way in terms of the layout of the factory itself, perhaps. And this goes back into this idea of simulation. A simulation is a very critical concern whenever you're dealing with decision support and an automated or adaptable environment. When you have a complex issue and a complex manufacturing process that you've never really done before, right? There's no historical data. Then you can use the simulation in place of the historical data to give perspective on what the risks actually are. And there's a growing need for more types of internal and external data. The sort of data mining concern that kind of falls into place where you're anticipating market changes, preferably before they even happen. And along with the complexities of these smart factories and the already existing complexities within a manufacturing facility, you need to have many forms of decision support and preferably integrated in some way. And that goes into this whole more robust, interconnected, adaptive, and smart manufacturing environment. The DSS itself has to be integrated into this, and then the control passed back into the system after the decisions have been made, so it can be applied more readily.